Right now, if someone pulled up your bank app and asked you one question, are you actually wealthy? You'd probably hesitate for half a second before saying yes. Asterisk, that hesitation is the whole story. Because statistically, out of every 100 Canadians who'd answer yes, only 5 are actually right. The other 95 aren't lying. Asterisk, they're not stupid. They're using the wrong definition, and by the time they find out, it's usually too late to fix it. Asterisk, if you own a home, have a decent income, and still feel one bad month away from panic. This is about you specifically, not Canadians in general. Here's the uncomfortable part. Every one of the 95 looks fine on paper. Asterisk, they have a mortgage, a car payment, maybe a line of credit, and a lifestyle that matches the neighborhood. Asterisk, nothing about their situation looks broken from the outside. Asterisk, that's exactly what makes this dangerous. There's no warning sign, no moment where the illusion announces itself. It just quietly compounds for 20 years. There's one illusion at the center of all of it, that owning a home equals being wealthy. Asterisk, it doesn't. A house is not wealth. A house with a mortgage against 90% of its value is a liability wearing a wealth costume. Asterisk, for decades, rising prices did such a good job of hiding that truth that an entire generation learned to read debt as success. Asterisk, everything else in this story, the comparisons, the language, the retirement math, exists to keep that one illusion alive. Real wealth has a simple test. What you own free and clear, minus everything you owe, measured against how long you could survive with zero income. Asterisk, not your job title, not your car, not the equity you can't touch without selling your house and renting it back from a bank at a worse price. Asterisk. Real wealth is optionality, the ability to walk away from a paycheck and still be fine. Statistics. Canada's own household balance sheet data shows the median Canadian family holds the vast majority of its net worth in one illiquid asset, real estate. Strip that out, and typical liquid savings barely cover a couple of months of expenses. Asterisk, in one recent Angus Reid survey, roughly 4 in 10 Canadians said they're within $200 of missing a bill at the end of the month. Asterisk, $200. Not a stat to skim past. That's a household running on a treadmill, and the treadmill is tilted uphill. Picture a couple earning a combined $140,000 a year. Great income on paper. Asterisk, but their mortgage just renewed at a higher rate. Property taxes went up. Groceries did too. Asterisk, they're still carrying a car loan, a line of credit from the kitchen renovation, a credit card that never quite hits zero. Asterisk, every year they get a net worth statement showing their house went up another $40,000 or $50,000. And every year that number feels like proof they're winning. Asterisk, it isn't. That number can't pay for a furnace, or a layoff, or a medical bill. Ask them to survive 6 months with no income, though, and they couldn't. That's not wealth. Asterisk, that's a beautifully decorated version of financial fragility. And the illusion is the only reason they can't see it. So why do smart, hardworking people fall for it without noticing? Because humans don't compare themselves to a spreadsheet. They compare themselves to the neighbor's driveway. Asterisk, this is social comparison bias, and it's one of the illusion's favorite weapons. If everyone on your street has a renovated kitchen, a leased SUV, a Costco cart full of name brands, your brain quietly recalibrates what normal looks like. Asterisk, you're not trying to get rich. You're trying to not fall behind, and falling behind reads to the brain as danger. The illusion has a second weapon, language. Debt in Canada has been rebranded as responsible. A mortgage isn't debt, it's building equity. Asterisk, a car loan isn't debt, it's getting ahead. A line of credit isn't debt, it's flexibility. When the label hides the mechanism, people stop questioning the mechanism, and it has a third, quieter weapon buried inside government policy itself. The public pension system was never designed to fully fund retirement on its own. It was built as a floor, on the assumption that personal savings and home equity would cover the rest. Asterisk, here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Nobody ever tested whether home equity actually behaves like savings in real life. It doesn't. Asterisk, you still need somewhere to live. Equity in the house you're sleeping in isn't retirement income. It's a house you're still living in. Asterisk, you can't spend a wall. The only way to actually access it is to sell, downsize, or borrow against it, and every one of those options either shrinks your lifestyle or adds the debt right back that you spent 30 years paying off. This isn't a doom story, though. It's a filter, and the 5% already found it, quietly. usually without ever calling themselves wealthy out loud. The 5% who qualify as genuinely wealthy didn't get there by earning more. Many of them earn less than people stuck on the treadmill. Asterisk, what separates them is one repeated decision. They treated savings as a fixed cost, not a leftover, before lifestyle, before upgrades, before the trip everyone else is taking. Asterisk, they paid their future self first automatically. So willpower was never required. Not so fast, though. Saving alone isn't the finish line. Asterisk, the 5% also understand that money has to work independently of their labor. Dividend income, index investing, paid off assets producing cash flow instead of consuming it. Asterisk, $100,000 sitting in a checking account is not financial freedom. Asterisk, the same $100,000 generating income while you sleep is a completely different asset, even though the number on the screen looks identical. Asterisk, that's the actual definition of financial freedom. Not the size of the number, but whether the number can support you without a permission slip from an employer. Here's what breaking the illusion actually looks like in practice. Asterisk, it starts with an honest net worth calculation, assets minus debts. Liquid separated from illiquid. Because if most of your net worth is trapped inside your home, you're not wealthy, you're leveraged. And that's simply where you start, not an insult. Asterisk, from there, a real emergency reserve gets built before anything else. 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting somewhere boring and accessible. Since this single habit rescues more households than any investment strategy ever will. Asterisk, once that exists, an investment contribution gets automated the same day the paycheck lands, no matter how small. Because the 5% never started with large amounts, only consistency. Before lifestyle had a chance to absorb the difference. Asterisk, and the scoreboard changes too, from the neighbor's driveway to your own net worth 6 months ago, which is the only comparison that has ever meant anything. Underneath all of it sits the real philosophy, and it's simpler than any spreadsheet. Money was never about having more. Asterisk, it was about needing less permission. From a mortgage renewal, from an employer, from a market that doesn't care about your 5-year plan. Asterisk, wealth is quiet. It doesn't need a new kitchen to prove itself. It just needs to survive contact with reality. 95 out of 100 Canadians are still wrong about where they stand. Not because they're careless, but because an entire system was built to make debt feel like progress. Asterisk, the 5% simply stopped believing the costume was the real thing. And now you know exactly what to check when you get home. There's a number tied to all of this that almost no financial advisor says out loud on camera, the actual amount Canadians need to retire without touching home equity at all. And it's not what you'd expect. Asterisk, that's next. Subscribe so it doesn't get buried in your feed before you see it.